I've spent a lot of time on this show talking about the marijuana stocks, now that Canada and a bunch of U.S. states have legalized it. But the truth is that this opportunity exists because cannabis is full of chemicals that have very real health benefits. Which brings me to GW Pharmaceuticals, GWPH. That's the British drug company that spent years studying cannabis to develop actual medicine. In November, they started selling Epidiolex here in the United States. This is a drug that prevents seizures. And for the many people, this has been downright miraculous. So it's no wonder that when GW Pharma reported last night, it delivered some fantastic results, causing the stock to skyrocket today up $21, nearly 14%. Now, this product launch is only just beginning, but apparently Epidiolex's prescriptions increased by 150% from December to January. So could the stock have much more upside? Let's take a closer look with Justin Gover. He's the CEO of GW Pharmaceuticals. Hear more about the success of this drug and the success of this company. Mr. Gover, welcome back to Mad Money.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for having me back on the show.
Oh, absolutely, Justin. I've got to tell you, when this was passed, I thought that there was that Wall Street knew how urgent your drug was needed, and they would take numbers up and recognize that this is a very special drug. Were you surprised at how Wall Street reacted, given the fact that you've come on the show and said, look, there's a huge unmet need here?
Well, first, it is early days, of course, so we actually are only reporting the first 2 months of sales. So I think there is a note of caution to be had. But we've always understood that there's an acute need within the epilepsy community for new treatments, and that a CBD-based option is something that's been widely talked about. So we're delighted to understand that this medical community is receptive to this medication and to believe it can help a number of patients across this country with seizures that have been very difficult to treat with other anti-epileptic drugs.
All right, good, Justin, because I wanted to ask you, I think there's a lot of people watching this show who says, why is Cramer like this? Why is this guy Justin? What are they doing? You know, we know CBD, you can get it now. It's available. Canopy's got it, and Colorado's got it. We're talking about dosing and precision dosing and how none of those things can really be written for a serious prescription, correct?
Well, what we do is we do real science, and we produce medicines that have evidence of safety and efficacy and where the manufacturing process can be relied upon in terms of the composition of the product. These are fundamentally important factors when it comes to medication choices for patients who have very difficult to treat medical conditions. It's a very different environment from over-the-counter type options, and for serious medical conditions, Epidiolex as an FDA-approved option is very much a distinct one from other CBD alternatives.
Now, I know that this is for severe and for, yes, and for pediatric, and that is the most important. But I read a book that is just unbelievable called A Mind Unraveled. I don't know if you've read it. It's by Kurt Eichenwald, who's a very famous journalist. He's 57 years old. He has epilepsy. He's got it somewhat under control. But his whole theory behind the book is a lot of people are embarrassed about epilepsy. A lot of people don't want to admit it. A lot of people want to not go to college, not go to work. Couldn't your drug be used for these serious 3 out of 10 people who are grown up who really can't be treated?
Well, the drug is approved for 2 childhood onset forms of epilepsy. These children do grow up, of course, so there are adults that take Epidiolex and will continue to take Epidiolex. But at the moment, we have evidence in these 2 forms of epilepsy. We continue to evaluate the efficacy and safety of this medication in other forms of epilepsy. So we're at the beginning of a journey, Jim. We're not there yet. But there are clearly opportunities for us to increase the potential utilization of this drug through further research. But it is the research that will determine in which patients this medication should ultimately be used.
But how will you get the word out? Because some of the theses, when I was looking on various sites involving epilepsy, there's a tremendous lack of knowledge among the medical community about how epilepsy should be even treated. And they're treating it with like Lamictal, they're treating it with Depakote, they're treating it with these old seizure drugs from the 50s and 60s. It's crazy. How do you get the word out?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons that this drug, Epidiolex, is so exciting. It is really the first time in many years that we've had a truly novel, innovative, first-in-class medication within the epilepsy field. And I think that's one of the reasons, aside from the fact it comes from the cannabis plant, why the receptivity so far appears to be so promising. And ultimately, of course, the real determinant of success is the impact on the patient population. And aside from the fact that we're only a couple of months into launch in terms of numbers, what has been so heartening has been the number of responses and reports that we've already heard from physicians and patients across the country about how this medication may have helped their conditions.
Justin, has been any backlash at all? An old friend of mine, a guy I hired right out of college, Alex Berenson, New York Times reporter who's now writing books. He's written a book called Tell Your Children the Truth about marijuana, mental illness, and violence. Are you hearing anything about that strain? He's been on a lot of talk shows, and it seems to me that what you're doing far outweighs that kind of worry. But it is in my head that maybe we should be more careful.
Well, Epidiolex is not marijuana. It is a purified CBD formulation approved by the FDA. That distinction is very important. It's important for us to educate and continue to emphasize, because you're right that there can be confusion. So our job has been to ensure that we have a clear distinction between this medication and marijuana. And in that respect, I think we've achieved a great deal of understanding within the medical community. And for those that do understand that, they see this as just an important new treatment addition, and they don't confuse it with the wider controversies around marijuana.
Is there any possibility the largest epidemic in teenagers is not drug use, it's actual suicide? Is there a possibility that we have compassionate use for teenagers who could use Epidiolex, because there really is nothing? Right now we have nothing. We just have counseling. Is there any way it could be compassionate use for teenagers?
Well, we have no evidence for the use of Epidiolex outside of the 2 indications for which is approved. So it would be unwise for me to speculate at this point about what should be done. All I can say is that we at GW are determined to continue to research these cannabinoids. We are, after all, the leaders in this field of science, 20 years already in this field, and passionate believers that cannabinoids can have the potential in both other forms of epilepsy and other disease states. But that's research still to be done. So I think we're at the beginning of this journey, not the end. Total agreement with you, and I just wish you the best luck because you're doing amazing things. That is Justin Gover. He's the CEO of GW Pharmaceuticals. There is a long runway for this stock. Mad Money's back after the break. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.